Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome back to the stream. I went to hit my super high production intro there, and it didn't play, so we're not going to sweat that. Will be our own intro today. So we have a very, something, I received a personal email last night, and I was reading it this morning, of one of our brothers, our beloved brothers, that is finding himself in a very difficult spot. And I thought, I read it several times. I even shared it with Mrs. W to get her perspective on it, because I wanted to address that today, because it is something that a lot of us, not us, not me personally, fortunately, but a lot of our fellow brothers are dealing with. And that is being locked into a loveless marriage with a quarrelsome and contentious woman. And man, that's something I think we need to talk about today. So I want to paint that picture for you. I'm not going to, he's here with us today. I'm not going to out him. I'm going to keep it anonymous. He reached out to me in confidence, but I think it's important that we address this. So let me paint you a little backstory here. So this guy is about, I think he's in his mid-30s or so. Been married for about 13 years. Got married in his mid-20s. I'm under the impression both of them are working. He said they seem to be doing pretty good. They both have really good, solid incomes. They can pretty much do what they want to do. So their finances have never been a struggle. The problem is that he now is starting to wake up and realize that he wants to get out and change his life. He wants to get out of the rat race and stop, all of the consumerism and just the materialism and all the things that, that we've all been working on and struggling with as well. And he finds himself in a position where he's not equally yoked, because his wife is not at all on board, won't even listen to him. Won't even entertain it. She, as he said, won't even have it. His question is, what's my obligation to this woman? What is my obligation as someone that was raised in the church? As he said, he's got a real moral dilemma that he's struggling with. God talks about not wanting us to engage in divorce, of how destructive that is, and we all know that, and a lot of Christian men suffer from this, thinking that is such an obligation to them, even though they're being abused, they're being disrespected, not treated properly, that somehow they're locked into that situation. So I wanted to address that a little bit, and this is not really my opinion. It's difficult I'm going to give my opinion. It's difficult for me to give an opinion because I'm hearing one side of it. And Mrs. W was very clear to me, about that as well. There's always two sides of every story, but you can read between the lines, and just the way that he wrote and the amount of information that he gave me, I'm very confident I have kind of a pretty good lay of the land of what's going on. So when you have a situation like that, let's say they've been married for 13 years, and fortunately they don't have any children. The man, the head of the household, comes to a realization that things are not right. The world is changing. Things are not what worked in the past. What was okay in the past is not necessarily that as the future. And as so many of us, we are moved to get out and change our life. Really get ready for coming disasters or economic collapse or what have you. Of course, the natural thing for us to do is, once we're aware of this and we come to the realization, is we want to share that with our loved ones. Especially, we want to share that with our wife, so that we can save each other, right? So that she can be made aware of the precariousness of our predicament. Well, this gentleman has done that. He's went to her, and as he said it, she won't have it. Won't even entertain it, and won't even consider it. They've had a lot of struggles with their marriage. He's time after time after time tried to get her involved with counseling. She won't have it, won't listen to it. And furthermore, the thing that really was the icing on the cake for me was she continually, and has for some time, threatened him with divorce. It's always her way or nothing. It's either her way or the highway. And if he doesn't kowtow and he doesn't toe the line, then she is hanging that over his head. And that is very, very abusive, and something that I would absolutely not tolerate. Now, is she willing? Does she mean it? Who knows? So to sum it all up, he's asking, what should I do? I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to fight with this woman. I've done everything in my power. I've bent over backwards to not, I'm just not going to die on every hill. I just give in to her just so I can keep the peace. which is really common with men. That's the thing, that's the ability that God has really given us, is to bear a lot of burden, to bear the burden of relationships, bear the burden of work, bear the burden, responsibility of leadership and providing for our family. We have a tremendous capability for that, and that is often exploited by women. They know it. They know that we're going to be that way. They know that we're going to be constant and steady, and they can get away with it. And the more they get away with it, the more that they will manipulate that way. So I want to go back. We're never on safe ground to get the opinion of a sinful man. My opinion on it, what I think, is not really important. Where we find safety is there precedence? Is there instructions in the good book for a situation like that? And as I was got done reading that letter, and I was in my wardrobe getting dressed, I was thinking upon that. There's a couple things that came to mind, some stories that I think will shed a little bit of light on this, and we can help this gentleman and fellow brother, he's here with us, to make the right decision. So back in the Old Testament, when the Israelites were led by Moses, led out of Egypt after 400 years of persecution, they were in slavery for 400 years and treated terribly. And most of us know the story of the crossing of the Red Sea and Moses leading them into the Promised Land and all the problems that came about from that. Well, when they inhabited the Promised Land, God made a covenant with them and said, "I will be your God, and you will be my people. I respect your free will. You can do what you want. You can raise your families. I will make sure that your crops prosper. I will be a hedge of protection around you. I only ask that you keep my precepts, keep my commandments, keep the agreement, the covenant that we made together, and all will be well." Well, as the people prospered and moved on, they started to grumble, and they started to look around at the Canaanites and the other civilizations around there and how they ran their governments, and they became dissatisfied. And they went to God and they said, we don't want you to be ruler over us. We want a king. Well, God says, why do you want a king? Well, we want a king because we're tired of going out and having to fight with all these people and continue to do all these things. We want a king so that he can raise an army and he will go fight for us and he will take care of all these issues and we can live happily and healthy ever after, and put that responsibility, that burden upon him. Well, God said, well, that's very short-sighted. Do you think that the king is going to just manufacture troops and cooks and house servants and that sort of thing out of nowhere? No, he's going to come to you and he's going to take your sons. He's going to take your daughters. He's going to build his standing army. He's going to populate his palace with your sons and daughters. Do you think that, did you think that I was just going to give him a standing army? We don't care. We want a king. Okay. So God respected them. He warned them many times. I'm warning you, this is not the best way, but if you're going to be adamant about it, then that's what you will have. I will give you a king. So God, unlike us, probably had his feelings hurt. Us having our feelings hurt, we would probably give them, if it was in our power to do so, a mediocre king, to really show the contrast of how bad it is to be under the rule of a monarchy compared to being under the rule of your heavenly loving Father that is looking out for you. But God didn't do that. He chose amongst the men a man that would be the perfect king for them. The good book tells us that he was physically very impressive. He was head and shoulders taller than the majority of the other men. He was a man that would inspire respect, a man that could be a strong leader that the children of Israel could get behind. And his name was King Saul, the very first king of Israel. Now, when King Saul was chosen as a young boy, God chose him. He was very humble. He understood the responsibility that was about to be put upon him, and he was very devout and very close to God. And God made a covenant with him, an agreement that said, if you follow my precepts and keep my commandments, I will be with you. I will give you everything that you need to rule in peace and prosperity and in righteousness. I will be right there with you, and I will never depart from you. And that was an agreement. That was a contract like we would have today. If we enter into an agreement with someone, there are things that need to be done. I will sign this contract, but you will be required to do thus and so, and as long as the contract is honored, it will be binding, but The moment that contract, when you don't fulfill your portion of it, then that contract is null and void, and I'm no longer bound by it. Well, we know the story of King Saul as he went through in the battles, and he got further and further away from God and broke that contract and broke that covenant. And it finally got to the point where God said, I'm removing that anointing that I put upon you. I'm going to take the promises that I gave you, and I'm going to put them on another. And that was King David. And Saul remained king for some time, but without the protection of God and no longer bound by that covenant or that agreement, and it ended for him negatively. The reason why I'm sharing this story is that when a man and woman come together, this is my opinion, when a man and woman come together, there is an agreement. There are certain things that need to be done. If you're going to come together in the church as a Christian marriage, which it sounds like that you have done, there are certain things that each party needs to adhere to and needs to uphold. And if you find yourself in a position after 13 years, it seems to me, 13 years of marriage, where one party is adhering to it and the other party is not adhering to it, it seems to me that you are not bound by that contract. Now, where do you go from here? Does that mean that you have the free will just to bail from it and completely exonerated from any consequences or any responsibilities? I would not say that. But here, I've thought about this a lot, and this is the situation. If this was my situation, if this is what I would do it. This is how I'd handle it. I would go to her, and I would give her an ultimatum. I would be very clear on what it is that you would require for you to stay in this marriage. Whether that be, we're going to sell the house, we're going to move to a more secure location, a location that's going to be safer, a location that's going to be better suited to raise my family. I am not going to tolerate you holding threats of divorce over my head. I am not going to tolerate you disrespecting me. I'm not going to tolerate your hard-headed and your stubbornness and always getting your way. Whatever it is, whatever situations that you find to be unacceptable, they need to be laid out as clear as crystal, and she needs to understand that you're as serious as a heart attack. And on top of that, there needs to be a timeline. These things need to be done by this date, whatever it is. Give her a year. You want counseling? And again, she doesn't have to agree to them. It doesn't matter if she agrees to them or not. What you're doing is you are putting a good faith effort in, and you're saying, I am willing to stay with you and honor this marriage, to have and to hold in sickness and in health. I'm willing to do this. These are my conditions. And make sure the conditions, they can't be unreasonable, obviously, and they have to be within the bounds of what is considered a Christian marriage, according to the 66. If you do that, and she balks and puts no effort into it whatsoever, and won't have it, and threatens or what have you, then you have your answer. And if it were me, I would make the date, and I would say, okay, then if you will not agree to this, then this is what my next step is going to be. And you need to be 100% resolved that you are willing to do this. Before you give this ultimatum, if you choose to do that, you need to have listed out the things that are deal breakers for you, what you must have, understanding that it's not going to probably not be the best marriage, but if you can live with it, if she can make these changes, you would be willing to shoulder that burden. If she, upon hearing this, won't have it, will not meet you halfway, then it seems to me that it's time to go. It's time to go. Yes, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be probably a brutal, bitter, angry. You're going to have an angry woman that she's going to try to hurt you or destroy you in the court system, and that's something that should be no surprise. Hopefully you don't live in California. But if you are in your mid-30s, I think was what you said, or somewhere around there, you still have a lot of time. You can rebuild this. You have one life to live. And it's ridiculous to be under an abusive person. And this goes both ways. This is for women as well, if you find yourself in that situation. God does not expect you to be a beast of burden for a quarrelsome and contentious woman. It's just life is too short. You don't need it. And you've tolerated it for 13 years. How much longer? Do you think it's going to get better? It's only going to get worse. Thank God you don't have any children. That makes the decision much, much easier. But that's the route that I would take. Now, let's say that she is unwilling to meet you halfway, that she won't take the smallest step towards you, and you're forced to hit the eject button. You've resolved to do it before you gave her the ultimatum. You have a date. She knows what the date is. You need to follow through and get your ducks in a row and get ready for a fight, because you're going to have to deal with this through the family courts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once you're free of all of that, as a follower of the way of a Christian, that puts a lot of folks in a difficult position, because we go to the Bible and we see that, if you divorce your woman, you divorce your wife, and you take another, then it's very clear that you are in an adulterous marriage or relationship, and that is a big problem, right? But it seems to me, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and it just seems to me from my understanding that once that covenant is broken, once that a marriage agreement is broken, you have made a good faith effort to do everything in your power to maintain it, and she has not. That is broken, in my opinion. Just like the covenant between King Saul and God was broken. Contracts have to be maintained. They have to be, each side has to pull their weight. And as I was kind of struggling with this and trying to think of an example in Scripture that I could kind of back up what I'm saying here about you being free after a broken contract, and or just the idea of taking another woman because you divorced your wife, the thing that came into my head was the story of Rahab. Now, we have this idea that as in the Western church, we can't marry anyone that's divorced, and this damaged woman, or she's left, who knows what, and all these things, and 10 different pastors are going to have 10 different opinions. But what examples do we have from the good book? Well, the story of Rahab. Rahab was a prostitute in the city of Jericho. Now, when Moses died, he gave leadership, he gave command of the children of Israel over to Yeshua, the same name as Jesus. And Joshua was to lead them over into the promised land and take possession across the Jordan of all these lands and start establishing the children of Israel. Well, when they came to that great city Jericho that had a tremendous wall around it, he looked at that and he thought, goodness, that's pretty fortified. We're out here kind of an untrained army. God tells us that we can take possession of this, but I don't know about this. I would feel better to have a little bit of information. So he decided to take a couple of the Israelites and make them spies and send them covertly into the city of Jericho, just to kind of feel it out. Go through the gates, disguise yourself as a Canaanite, whatever they did, and see what is, where the entrance is, how much, what's the military strength, what is the feel of the people, and that's what they did. Well, they were spotted as soon as they went in there, and they took refuge of a door. It was an apartment that was on the outside wall, and this was Rahab, and she was a prostitute. And she opened the door, and they came in there, and they explained what was going on, and she said, all right, the guards are coming, they're looking for us. She looked outside, there's a woman talking, pointing to her door, the guards are heading that way, she's got to make a decision, right? So she takes the two Israelis, he takes the two spies, puts them up on the roof, as the story goes, and covers them with flax. Bang, 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 bang on the door. She opens it. Hey, where are those two men that we saw coming this way? Well, she had to make a decision. Should she rat them out and save her skin? Because it wouldn't hurt her. She'd say, yeah, they came up here. They're hiding up on the roof. Go get them. No problem. But she didn't. She lied to those men, and she said, yes, I did see them. They ran down there towards the gate. If you leave now quickly, I think you can catch them. And they turned on their heels, and off they went. Well, the reason why I'm telling you this story is that here we have a woman that is held up as a pillar of faith in the 66 books. And in the 66 books, the real estate is quite precious. There are very few people that are mentioned in stories that are cited as real titans of faith. And this Canaanite woman, this Canaanite prostitute, is held up to that level. Not only that, but for her faith and her courage of saving those two spies, she was brought into and saved from the destruction of the city. Her and her family was saved, and not only that, but is a great, 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 great grandmother of the Messiah. God so honored this woman that he put a Canaanite prostitute into the bloodline of Jesus Christ. So someone in Judah, which we know the Lion of Judah, the tribe of Judah, was what produced the Messiah. He came out of there. Way back there was the blood of that Canaanite prostitute woman. That this holy family, this family that was set aside to produce the Messiah, found that it was just fine, or God, I don't know if God approved it, but that's what they did. They brought this prostitute in, and she was made an honorable woman. So I wonder sometimes if you find yourself divorced because of a broken covenant, a broken contract, and you struggle with this idea that I can never, ever have another woman, I could never take another woman that has been divorced, whatever that may be. I don't know that it's that black and white. Now, this is my opinion, it just seems to me. But I think it's a very different thing. I think what the good book was talking about and what Christ was talking about when he said, don't get involved with another woman that's already been married because you're going to be in an adulterous marriage. It seems to me that the distinction is if the marriage was dissolved just because of feelings or I'm not liking it or I'm not happy, both sides, the man, let's say a woman left a man and the man was a good man and he'd never cheated on her, he'd never disrespected her, he never beat her, he always provided for her, but just because she found someone else or rekindled a Facebook love with an old fling somewhere and because she felt like it, that's a very, very different thing than a man or a woman that is a result of a broken marriage because of a broken contract, or because the other person did not honor and it made it impossible. So that's going to be a personal question for you. That's going to be something you're going to have to make a decision. But judging from what I hear, and I understand that there are two sides to every story, and it's very dangerous for me to come and give you an opinion or a take, not having both sides of the story. But from what I've said what I've said. So if it were me, these are the steps I would take. I would give her an ultimatum. These things need to happen. If they do not happen by this time, then I will be filing for divorce. And that's as simple as that. Now the ball is in her court. She will rant and she will cry and she will rage and she will call you just the most evil names and all these things. You need to hold fast. You have to have already resolved in your mind that this is your course of action. You have been a doormat for this woman. You've been trampled on for 13 years. You know this is a loveless marriage. You know that this is unacceptable situation. For the first time in this relationship, you need to draw a line and you need to say it goes no further than this. Now, in a perfect world, it may be that that's the thing that she's been waiting for. Maybe she's been waiting for you to challenge her. Maybe she's been waiting for you to step up and assert your leadership role as head of your household. I don't know. And something may flip in her mind and she may decide to come into an agreement with you, get into harness together and start working together towards a common goal. That would be the best outcome, seems to me. Give her every chance to do it. And then you will be, in my opinion, guilt-free. Enough time has been given. It's been very clear what the conditions are going to be for you to stay. And if she's not willing to meet those conditions, then it's time to go. It's simply that. There's nothing more to it than that. And just be thankful you don't have children. But that's what I would do. After considering it, talking to Mrs. W., that's what I would do. And that's what I would advise you to do as well. So I'm sorry, that's a tough situation, but life is hard. Goodness. We have a new member, UDECM's Gaming Service channel. Shout out to you. Welcome. Welcome here. Good to see you. And we have a super chat from the Isaac. Shout out to you. Evan Roach, new member. Welcome. Evan, all three of you, you will get to enjoy your new 940 members badge. A badge of honor, to be sure. And Gwinar Parr. Shout out to you, Gwinar. Man, it warms my heart. It's so exciting to see all of the new members jumping on. It is very, very encouraging to me. And I've just thought, in a perfect world, we would get to the spot where we could just be 100% member supported on our own site, doing our own thing, whatever we want, without anyone having their thumb on us or dictating to us what we can and cannot load. And man, jump in, strap up, and get ready, because it's going to happen. We just have to just keep moving forward. But shout out to you, Gunnar Parr. Welcome. Thank you. Mr. Overton, like the stream. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Tony Bologna, good to see you back. And 1 month member, the golden month. Welcome. He says, merch word ideas, proper feels good in the hand. Proper feels good in the hand, yeah, or act accordingly. We have some good ideas. We are going to be discussing that this week. I've had a pretty busy week. Jack turned 18 today. So we went into, we had the best time last night. So it kind of worked out that I had to go into town for an appointment, and we thought about going today on his birthday, and we said, Jack, would you mind going a day early, and we'll go in. We wanted to take him out to a nice dinner, out to steak and a couple other things. So he said, yeah, that's fine. So we got a babysitter for the sweet loaf, and we headed out, and we went downtown Portland, and bought Jack his first nice suit. Man, we had such a great time. So we went to a stop place there that has some nice things, and had a really wonderful salesman. His name was David, and David, he really knew clothing and really knew suits, and steered us in the right direction. And Jack and I just had the best time. About 3 hours we were there and trying on stuff and working out with different things, because Jack needed a good suit because he's competing at a pretty high level in debate, and that they have to dress very formally. But just a wonderful memory that I will never forget. Mrs. W was a little bit sad when we walked up there into the men's shop. I think that buying a suit like that is kind of a rite of passage. It's something that every man should have. Even if you're not a corporate guy, or that's something that you think you would ever wear, it needs to be on your list, on your bucket list, to get yourself a good suit. And I'm not talking a crummy one. Go and do it properly. Do it properly. You don't have to do a bespoke suit. You can get something off the rack, but just go someplace where they have a good tailor that they can get you fit properly. And you should start with a good navy blue suit, something that every man should have in the closet. Because if you're ever asked to go to a funeral or a wedding, to have to be on the back foot and get all those ducks in a row is difficult, and it's just disrespectful. It's disrespectful to show up to those celebrations, and I think that the standards have slipped to the point where professional homeowner, ProHo, needs to be a bulwark against the slackness, the slack-jawed, blue-pilled simps, and hold up some decent standards, and having a suit for a proper occasion is important. But this is something that should be done amongst men. Don't go in with your wife. Go in and do it properly. So Mrs. W was there, and Jack looked at her and said, "Goodbye, Mama." She's like, "What?" "Yep, goodbye, Mama. Go do something else. This is for men today." So, oh, okay. So she went, and we sent her and gave her some money. She went to go buy shopping for herself, which he was fine with. So we had a great time. Got Jack a beautiful suit, and just a wonderful time. Then we had a nice dinner. We went to Ruth Chris Steakhouse, pretty swanky. Had steak, just the three of us, and it was wonderful. Just a wonderful day. But get a suit, or at least make plans in the future to get a hold of one. We have a new member, Martin 4. Welcome, Martin. Good to see you here. Warms my heart to see you here. Shout out to you. Thank you for your faithfulness. And the Isaac, pet the cat. Mama, have to be careful. If you sneak up on Mama when she's sleeping, she will bite you. She is not a tame lion. What do you think, huh? What do you think? You want to come over here? Are you happy rolled up in your donut? It's pretty cold, 21 degrees last night. It's pretty cold in here. Thank you, Isaac. We have a super chat from Jamie, and new member. Welcome. Thank you for your generosity. Shout out to you. And Jamie writes, "Hi, Cody. I was married before, and my ex came home one day and said she met somebody at work, and it was a woman. Never would have guessed. Goodness. Never would have guessed. Goes to show you have one life to live. Be smart and God bless." Yeah, you know what? That's hypergamy, man. That's just incredible. You're not the only one that I've known. I have had multiple people in my life that has happened to in the last year, and how could you even see that company? I couldn't even imagine something like that. I can understand, leaving for another man. I kind of get that, but leaving for another woman is just beyond me. That's got to rip your guts out. Here you've been with this woman for how long? You've laid with this woman every night. You've trusted her. You've busted your back and sacrificed to provide for this woman. And if there's kids involved, and on the turn of a dime, on the turn of a heel, to make a decision like that, I mean, how do you even process that? I'm sorry. That is just terrible. But it just goes to show. The faith and loyalty, faith, perseverance is the domain of the man. It certainly is. We get manipulated and we get massaged and we get rolled on these situations like this because it's not even in our minds. It's not even in our minds to even consider this, that we would ever do something like this. And we wouldn't project that on anyone else. So when it happens to you, you're completely blindsided. Goodness, I'm sorry. But yeah, you need to respect yourself, gentlemen. I understand you don't realize, I don't think you realize what your value is among society, how important you are. We were made first. We were made in the very image of God. We've been demeaned. We've been run down. We've been told that we're toxic. We've been told that we're violent, what have you. But that's just not true. And you can have this mindset and you can endure a loveless and abusive marriage for year after year after year because you just see yourself as having less value. And that's not true. You're the economic engine of the family. You're the prize. What are you bringing to the table? You are the table. You built the table and the house that protects the table. Understand that. You have to assert your masculinity. You have to regain your sense of respect and pride and stop being abused. Stop being crapped on. If you're being treated poorly, if you're not being respected, get out. Get out. It's better. The psalmist says, it's better. It would be better to live on the very fringes, on the corner of a rooftop, by yourself as a bachelor with nothing, than in a kingdom or a house or a palace with a quarrelsome and contentious woman. That's the instruction of the psalmist. That's in the 66 books. That's an instruction to us. That's an instruction to men on how we should conduct ourselves. That whole book, the 66 books, that's sanctioned by God, inspired by. Men wrote as they were inspired by the Almighty. This has got his stamp of approval on it. And what is he telling us? It's better for you to be a bachelor in a roof. What would that equivalent be today? It'd be better for you to be in a one-room cabin or a one-room apartment in a Spartan lifestyle with peace and quiet and serenity that comes from that, to do whatever you want to do, never to have to beg permission, never have to have that anxiety to wonder, is she going to come in? Is she going to be annoying? Is she going to be bitching at me? Is she going to be contentious? Is she going to be quarrelsome? Is she going to be lavishly spending money on nonsense and foolishness? Is she going to be threatening me with divorce? You have no obligation to live under that tyranny. You need to respect yourself and draw the line. Gird up your loins, gentlemen, and become a man. Be the man that God intended you to be. And don't tolerate it. If she makes the changes, if she toes the line, then good. But you have to be vigilant, maintain your frame on that. But the moment she needs to understand, the moment that she turns on you and she breaks that contract, that covenant, that agreement, then you are out of there. Simple as that. And trust me, when you're out of that horrible situation, and I don't care if you're sitting in an $800 a month filthy apartment, the peace and serenity will speak very loudly. What would it be worth to you to be able to come and go as you please, to not have to justify any actions, to go where you want to come? Goodness. You can't put a price on that. And that's what the psalmist was writing. It's better to live on a roof, on the corner of a roof, not even on the roof, just a corner of a roof, than with a quarrelsome and contentious woman. Dr. Pepper, shout out to you. Thank you for your generosity. He writes, I met a wonderful woman who recently left an alcoholic, cheating husband and is now a single mother. My ex-wife destroyed my life by having an affair, leaving me a single dad. We both had spouses that broke the contract. An opinion. Well, as I said, Dr. Pepper, I mean, the same thing applies to you. And of course, I know your situation, and you were foremost on my mind because it's a very similar thing, that do background check. know who it is that you're dealing with. This is a very difficult thing, but I would say, this is my opinion and nothing more. But two divorced people, that are people of the way, people of faith, that are struggling with that idea of, am I in an adulterous marriage if I marry a woman that was married to another? Am I in sin from that? If the contract was broken, as we said, if one side completely obliterated the agreement that was gone into in that agreement of marriage, then it seems to me that that you wouldn't be bound by that. That's going to be your personal decision, obviously, but if I was in that situation, that's the way I would look at it. But I would also be very, very, very reluctant to come in off of a rebound on something like that. It looks convenient, especially as men. If you're a man raising little kids and you're a sole provider, you have a career, goodness, I mean, you'll grasp at anything. You can find yourself, Dr. Pepper, in a position where you're not able to be objective because you want relief so quickly. You need some help around there. Like just the thought of having someone back in the house that can help take care of the kids and help shoulder some of that burden while you're trying to provide and work is very, very enticing. And when you're in a position of desperation like that, it's hard to be objective and to make a good decision. So I'm just saying, be very careful. Don't get involved. Don't cohabitate until you know for sure at least a year or two. And I would be really reluctant to be entering into an agreement with the state contract. So you do with that. Act accordingly as you need to. That's going to be between you two, but it's possible. It could be that God has brought this woman into your life. So I don't want to be the one to stand in the way of that. I'm not the one going to be fighting against God. That's between you and him. But just be smart about it and just cover your ass. We have a super chat from GLG Forgeworks, a member for 1 year. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to you. Thank you for your loyalty. It's always good to see you here. We have a super chat from Tony Baloney, member for 1 month. Happy birthday, Jack. 18. 18. We were talking to him about, what we did was, this was Mrs. W's idea, which was really smart, is we've homeschooled him from the time he was just little. And when we were making that decision, we held him back 1 year. Like Mrs. W said, there's no reason to start kids at school so early. Let him be a little kid for 1 year longer. So he's actually, he's a little bit older than the other kids. He's a lot more mature. That's 17, 18, that's a big gap right there. So he's actually in his junior year instead of his senior year. So we were talking last night, what is it you're going to want to do, Jack? I mean, the reality, it's coming. You're going to have to start making decisions, whether that be going to university. He's always wanted to get a law degree. We talked about that. And then we talked, maybe we should do a gap year and such. And Mrs. W and I, one thing that we've brought up to him that I think would be a wonderful thing to do is, I said, why don't you just maybe take a year off and go up. I know some friends that have a couple electricians, have really good shops, good reputation around here. There's a local community college that has I think it's a 12 or 18 month program for you can get your residential electrician certificate. So why don't you, I can make a call. Maybe you could go next summer, go to work for them and go to classes and work on that a little bit and see if you like it. Just take a year off and get a certification so that you could work as an electrician. And then, college isn't going to go anywhere. If you still want to do that, if you still want to pursue law and such, then you can, we can do that. But it may be that you like the trades. It may be that he's the type of person that's probably going to, if he were to get involved in like that, he's obviously most likely going to have his own shop. He's going to be self-employed. He's independent like his father is. But, but we're never pushing him. We're just giving him options. You can do this. These are the benefits of doing that. It would be a benefit to us as well. Keep him close, but it's hard to say. But we're at that point now where we're going to have to make those decisions, or he's going to have to make those decisions, and we're just here to counsel him and to guide him the best that we can. He's a very impressive young man. Very impressive. We have a super chat from Juan Solanas. Shout out to you, Juan. And Juan writes that he got his first suit at 18. Has come in very handy in the past 5 years. Yeah, you need to have a suit. Get navy blue suit. I made a terrible mistake. I did not have a suit, and I decided it was last year because we had a big event. It was a debate. It was a homecoming for Jack. See, a lot of people think that homeschooling, every time we mention homeschooling, the first word out of everyone's mouth is, oh, I'm a socialization. Aren't you worried about your kid, becoming weird and not being socialized? They don't understand how it works. Jack and the homeschool kids around here, they have homecomings. They participate in the sports with all the school teams. They're very, very, they're just as social, if not more, actually a better, tighter group than public school kids. He's constantly going and socializing. That's not an issue. And one of the things that we make sure that's available for the homeschool kids is to have a proper homecoming. So they can, go and then we do the big dance, and it's very formal, and the parents show up, and Mrs. W gets a nice dress and gets her hair done, and I suit and the whole thing. So I had to have a suit made. Well, I had a bespoke suit made, my first one, and post-COVID. In post-COVID, I put on a few pounds, like I think many of you, and that was a very poor choice. And I knew I was a little heavier. I think, I told you I got like the 221, 223 or something like that. Pretty heavy for me. And had the suit made, and I tried it on 2 nights ago, and I'm swimming in it. I went from 223 to 181, if that tells you anything, which is back, I have a thin, athletic build. This is my normal build. This is what I should be, what I'm at right now. I put my pants on, I'm just like, oh, this isn't going to work. So I'm going to have to make an appointment, go back and have that sorted. Tuesday, I think. So make sure if you do invest in a suit, this is a word from the wise, if you do invest in a nice suit, make sure that you take that in consideration. Maybe if you're a little bit on the heavy side, you're not at your ideal weight, get to your ideal weight, then get your suit made. That's what I'd recommend. Shout out to you, Juan. Thank you. Zachary C., new member. Welcome, Zachary. Zachary writes, as a first-time airsoft owner, I can get with that, 19X, per your recommendation, how often should I go to the range and favorite drills? Well, I don't like going to ranges. If that's your only, I guess that's your only option. Dealing with, you haven't met Safety Sally until you've met NRA certified Elmer Fudd range enforcer. Oh, there's absolutely nothing worse. Some of the worst people in the world are Elmer Fudd, NRA certified range master, arborist guy, and East Coast man. You're going to have trouble if you ever come in contact with any of these guys. What I do, I'm pretty stingy with my ammo these days because of the availability and cost of it. So I have shot a lot. So I do a lot of just drills. I think the best thing to do, and your wife will think you crazy, but I don't care. Wear your gear. Get yourself a good holster. When you're working around the house, when you're working in the shop on weekends, if you're in the evening, have it in your hand. Always just make it a part, just make it an extension of your body so that you are so familiar with it that it's just absolutely natural. My hands, it's always with me. My hands are always on it. I'm dry firing it, I'm taking it apart, I'm handling it, I'm manipulating magazines, I'm getting comfortable, I'm taking it out of my holster. I'm just always playing with it, always manipulating it. I'm pulling it up, dry firing, keeping steady, point of it, sights, point, always be doing that. Shooting is important, certainly. If you don't have instructions and if you're kind of new to the game, it is important for you to get the fundamentals established. I really highly recommend a 2-day. There's going to be a million of them out there. Just find someone that's a good, reputable company. Go out, shoot 500 rounds, go through the drills, and learn the fundamentals. You're going to learn how to properly holster, how to draw from a holster, how to index shoot, how to clear corners. There's going to be a lot of things that you can learn that you'll take back home with you that you can practice with. And it's not always about just shooting. You do need to shoot, but there's a lot of things that you can do just in the comfort of your home or your shop or garage that just bring familiarity to it. You need to know that thing inside out. What your goal needs to be with that 19X is you need to understand how to completely disassemble it, down to the spring clip cups. Now, don't take the trigger group and all that stuff out. That's not important. You never really need to get in there, the trigger bars and stuff. So leave the lower alone, but learn how to take the upper apart and how to do it with improvised tools, with something that you can reach around and grab, how to pull that cap off. And then once you have that mastered, when you can just do it forwards and backwards, backwards and forwards, then you're going to do it blindfolded. And that needs to be, this is my tool. I am very familiar with it. I know how it works. I know how it functions. I know it has 3 safeties. I know all these things. I know how to press check. That's another thing that I'm surprised people don't know how to do that. No one touches my 19X except for me. And when it goes from the safe to the holster in the car, when I go out to Portland, I don't care that no one's had it, that it's never been in any other hands. I check it to be loaded, and I want to know. And the best way to learn to check it is look up how to do a press check. People will see me do that in videos, or in the past I've always asked about it. But in the dark, in a situation where you hear breaking glass at night, it's on your nightstand, wherever you keep it, you pull it off, you're slipping out of the bed, you're reaching down in the dark, you're press checking. It's a way for you to check that there is around in that chamber, and it brings comfort. It brings a lot of comfort. I mean, I just can't even imagine. Even though I press checked it 2 times the day before, and it went in my safe and came right out, back out, it will not go back in my holster until I know for sure. You need to know that forwards and backwards 100%. So that's what I would do. And then take some courses if you haven't. I don't know your skill level. If you've already done that, you know how to holster, you know how to do things, you know how to manipulate triggers and such, then you need to shoot. But I'd say every 3 months or so is enough. Go shoot a box. Go shoot 50 rounds every 3 months. Magazine changes are important. You should always have an extra magazine to you. With your EDC, very few guys do this, but I've done a lot of combat handgun training, lots and lots. So when I was years ago, I was a part of a club where we would shoot on Thursday nights and we would just shoot thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds. And I worked at the Sheriff's Department. We shot in the dark. We had an incredible instructor that used to work with the Israelis Defense Force, and he was super, super squared away and very, very practical. I'll tell you, he ran us a drill one time that I will never forget, that really finally it seared the importance and the responsibility of a CCW man like never before. I've told the story before, I'll share it with you. So we were in the club, we'd do some classroom, he'd show videos in different situations, then we'd go out and train, and he always made us train in low light. And we didn't have to shoot behind behind the stalls, he would open those up because we had proven ourselves. This was a pretty small group that had worked up through the classes till we earned the privilege to move freely in an active shooting in an environment like that. And so we were always shooting and laying down and around difficult things and talking about things. But I remember one time he said, when you guys come back next week, I want you to bring 3 old t-shirts. Because each class that I work with, I have them bring t-shirts. You guys will use the t-shirts from the previous class, and then I will use the t-shirts you bring for a training exercise that I have. So when I got there, I'm somewhat kind of a scatterbrain, forgetful. I got there a little bit early, and I was sitting there waiting, and it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I forgot my t-shirts. And this particular instructor was not a person that would have, this would have been a great sin. He told me to do it, I didn't do it, he didn't ask twice. He's that type of guy, right? He might have even just kicked me out of the whole group. So I was scrambling. I looked in the back of my truck, and fortunately, I had 2 of my own t-shirts, and I had a little t-shirt. Jack was just a little kid. He was probably 3 or 4 or 5, just a little kid. I had one of his shirts in there. So I thought, well, he didn't say anything about kid shirts, so I bundled them all up together in a bag and ran in there and put them on the table with everyone else's shirts. Like I'll just slip that one by, and Stu will never know, right? So it was time for us after the class to go into the range, and the lights were dark, down low, and there were 6 of us in the group. And he was preparing us for this drill, and we all stood up, and we were all kind of shoulder to shoulder at about 50 feet. Yeah, probably 50 feet. Standing there shoulder to shoulder, holstered, ready to go for this drill that we don't know what's going to be. He brings the lights up, and in front of each one of us is a cardboard silhouette target, and one of the shirts that we brought in is in front of us. He did this deliberately. And whose shirt do you think was right in front of me but my firstborn son? A little shirt that I'd seen him in. Oh, it gives me goosebumps thinking about. A little shirt that I'd seen him in and played with him and held him in. You know, it was very, very familiar to me. So we proceed through the drills, and it's 3 rounds, center of mass, repeat, repeat, repeat. And then after each session, go up to the front, and we're talking about this, shot placement, what happened, you know, after action report. And when I walked up there and saw those holes in that center of mass on my firstborn son's t-shirt, it dawned on me for the first time the responsibility of CCW, like a hammer blow. I had never experienced it before. I had been concealed carry since I was old enough to do it. I think when I was 18, I went down and I got my first one. Very cavalier about the whole thing. A lot of ego, a lot of machismo. I remember thinking, you know, in a situation where I saw some unsavory looking dudes on the sidewalk, I would just, my mentality was I have every right to be here, and if they're going to give me any flack, you know, then they'll be sorry for that. You know, I literally had that attitude. Like you know, if anyone presses me, I'll press back, and I wouldn't think twice about doing that. And fortunately, I grew out of that, and I never got in a situation where I got myself into trouble. But you know, I didn't understand the responsibility when I strapped that hog leg on. You know, that I was very, very nonchalant about it. Guns were so ingrained in my family, coming from a hunting family, that they were just everywhere. They were just, you just never thought about it. You took them for granted. You know, we practiced safe gun handling and such, but it just was not, coming from a hunting background and not thinking of guns as being for personal defense, my mindset was wrong on that. When I saw that shirt though, man, that snapped into focus, and my whole outlook on the whole thing changed. And from that day forward, I took a very different opinion on that. I realized what the consequences were and how serious it was, and that I didn't have any more arrogance. I did not have any machismo about that. In situations where I found myself where there may be danger, I avoid it. I'll turn around. Someone is calling out to me or trying to start something or bowing up on me, my ego is gone out of it. I'm going to turn and dip, man. I'm out of there. I don't care. I'll run away before I'll enter into combat with someone like that that's trying to provoke me, because I just don't want anything to do with it. I don't want that made a huge impression upon me. I don't even have the words to express it. And the same for other people. He did that intentionally. He told you because he knew that it would have an effect on us, and it was lesson learned. Shout out to Stu, man. Best instructor I ever had. We have a super chat from Myers Forged, and 2-month member. Shout out to you, and thank you for your generosity. It's a very generous super chat. He says, so glad to get back to the stream. I've been taking some of your ideas as well, as ideas from my late grandfather about life. And I tell you what, my life has been so much better since. Any other suggestions for day-to-day life? Give God the best time of your day, which is the morning, and take the cold showers. This isn't philosophical advice. I give too much of that anyway. I overreach. But as far as just a practical matter, which will funnel in, will get your day started on the right foot, I think is the most important. Before you have breakfast, before you eat, take a 3-minute cold shower. Do the 3-minute cold shower. Out of bed, right into it. Resolve that this is what you're going to do. This is your daily thing, just like brushing your teeth. Do the Wim Hof breathing method, and then go and start your day. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed what that will do for you. It's going to be very difficult. It takes a lot of courage. It starts getting better at day 5, but I cannot encourage you enough. Start with that. Start with that, and you'll wisdom and insight, clarity of thought will come to you, and it's just easier to do it. I think when I talk about giving God the best time of your day, once you do that, once you have taken your cold shower, 3 minutes, Wim Hof breathing method, takes about 10-15 minutes or so, you'll be in a real state of relaxation, a real state of clarity. It's important not to have breakfast before that, because a lot of your energy of your body and the resources are working to break down this food. You need to have the blood flow up. You need to have the cold shower that stimulates all the nerve endings. It's like, bang, man, that just wakes you up. It's like a doctor pulling the baby out of the womb and smacking it on the behind to get that atomic nervous system going, and the heart beating and the breath going and all that stuff. That's what it does for you every day. Roll out of bed, cold shower, 3 minutes, Wim Hof breathing method. Now you're ready to meet to have some prayer time. And whatever that may be, sometimes maybe it's 20 minutes, sometimes maybe it's 3 minutes, whatever's appropriate. You'll know, but you'll have a clarity of thought. You'll have a peace. But before all of the cares of the world rush upon you and all of the things, if you get out and you jump on your computer or you open up your phone, and all of the attention that requires will start occupying your mind, and then you eat a breakfast, and then you think, well, I'll try to kneel down and pray a little bit. You might as well just not even do it. You just have too much going on in your mind. Start off like that. Go right into give some time to God. Pray. Ask for wisdom, ask for guidance, ask for patience through the day, ask for His peace to be upon you, and that's really the big one, and then go into the day. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed the difference, and be consistent. We're doing this every day, beloved. This is what we do now. Proho does this every day. The cold shower, Wim Hof breathing method, connecting with God, and then start your day. That's the way we do it. Get on board. There's a lot of us doing it here. We have a super chat from 24 Outdoors, a member for 4 years. Shout out to you. Good to see you back here. He says, remember the day you uploaded the video of Jack running a chainsaw for the first time. Great to see how well he has grown. Goodness, I'm so proud of that boy. So proud of that boy. Mrs. W she's poured her whole life into our children and to me. She has sacrificed. She has the admiration of her family. She is an honorable and virtuous woman that is greatly, greatly loved and respected. It's not easy, ladies. It's not hard, ladies. If you're watching, just put away all that feminism nonsense. You were lied to. If just make her your example. She's an incredible woman. She's an incredible woman, and is. The good book tells us that you will know them by their fruit. What does that mean? You will know them by their fruit. You will know a person can say one thing or profess something. That doesn't mean anything. What people say doesn't mean anything. It's what they do. Actions count louder than words. That's what really matters. And the fruit of this woman's effort are her children. And just perfect example, when we went to buy Jack's suit last night, we had this wonderful gentleman, Mr. David, that helped us. He was 61 years old, had tremendous background in fashion, had, say what you want, that's fine. Every man's got their passion. It's not my thing, but he was telling me about how he used to do, window displays for Ralph Lauren, and, maybe not my thing and all that, but I have to appreciate any man that is good at his craft and is passionate and has dedicated his life to do his work the best that he can. Hats off to him, and he has my respect. And it was very fun to work with him. And when we were wrapping up, and Mrs. W came to join us, and he was just so impressed with Jack. He said, I have a lot of young men that come in here that are your age, and he goes, they're just terrible. They won't look you in the eye. They can't even speak. They're disrespectful. They're slovenly. They're lazy. Their vocabulary is terrible. He goes, it's sad. He goes, it's just sad to see, and the parents aren't teaching them anything. To see this ray of sunlight, to see someone that is proud and with squared shoulders and looks you in the eye and can articulate and is thinking and intelligent and respectful to his parents. He says, I just can't tell you what a wonderful experience that was. I wish I could just take him home with me. Mrs. W, when she hears those sorts of things, she just lights up like a Christmas tree, because a mother like that, it's a difficult job. She doesn't receive a lot of the admiration, and everyone likes to have a pat on the back. And here I am, she's in behind the scenes supporting so I can be here, and I receive all the accolades and all of the personal emails and all that, and she doesn't receive those sorts of things. She doesn't get them. So they're very few and far in between, apart from her own family, of course. So it's really wonderful. It was wonderful that she got to experience that as well. So shout out to Mrs. W, the best woman alive. Best woman for me, anyway. We have but thank you for your generosity. We have a super chat from Balelo. Shout out to you, Balelo. He says, "Hi, Cody. Thank you so much for this channel. I'm a young guy watching from Sweden, and your insight on life has been very valuable to me." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, we're all about all things Swedish here. Mrs. W's mother is Swedish. Mrs. W is half Swedish and a fluent speaker. I say this all the time. I like to brag on her. But when we go to Sweden, one thing I always get a kick out of is the native Swedes will comment. You know, if you go to Sweden, everyone speaks English. They speak Swedish and English. So it's a really easy place to visit. You can go in any store. They'll start out speaking Swedish, but the moment you respond in English, they'll switch to English, and their English is excellent. So when we go there, and Mrs. W will switch to English, because she's a fluent Swedish speaker, she'll be Swedish to English. Her Swedish is so good that the Swedes stop and they marvel, they're like, wow, your English is perfect. no accent or anything like that. Well, that's because that's her native language. But that's how good her Swedish is that she fools the native speakers. So that's pretty impressive, I guess. I'm not an educated man. I don't know how cool that is, but I get the impression that it's a pretty big deal. Super smart, Mrs. W. But shout out to you. Shout out to Sweden. We have a super chat, or new member, Gypsy Jeeper. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the family. Enjoy your new member's badge, Overton's 940. You'll see that right beside your name there. And Myers Forge, member for 2 months. Welcome, Myers. Good to see you back. Always good to see Myers. He writes, also got my YouTube channel running again and posting some shorts and ideas of doing my own thing like you had mentioned, and it has been so helpful. Yeah, that's what it is. You just have to, you cannot, if you're starting a new YouTube channel, there are exceptions. There are some people that blow up for, who knows, it just happens from time to time, but it's very, very rare. And if you see that and you're thinking, oh, that's what's going to happen to me, you're looking to be disappointed. You need to look at it as, I'm doing this is a labor of love. I am doing it not for money, but I'm doing it for love. If you continue to do that, follow your passions, let your enthusiasm, things you're excited about, if it gives you the fizz, turn on the camera and share it. Whatever it is, that enthusiasm will come through, and it's genuine. And there's a shortage of genuine these days. And that's why you guys are here. That's why we like these live streams and stuff, because it's the real thing. It's not candy coated. You can't hide on a live stream. It's genuine, and there's a lack of genuine in this world. And the more we go through time, the less and less there's going to be, and there's going to be more and more of us that are attracted to this. We just don't want fake. We want things that are real. We're tired of being lied to. We're tired of being deceived. This is the era of deception, if you haven't figured it out. So we need to be a beacon on the hill, a beacon of light. No one's perfect here. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do 180s, but we're going to act upon truth as we know it at the time. And God is bringing new revelations, seems like daily these days to a lot of us. And things that we've held to be sacred and true, we're starting to second guess. There's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's incredible. One of the worst things I'm starting to realize is one of the worst attributes among people these days is how judgmental. That's the worst thing about Americans. Americans are some of the most judgmental people in the world. It's really, really, really a terrible sin. It is. It's incredible that you see. I shared a video years ago where I made a mistake. I crashed a brand new Honda motorcycle. I whiskey throttled, wheelied into a whole group of reporters basically on national television, that type of thing, which was quite embarrassing. And it was an accident. Of course, I didn't do it on purpose. And after that happened, I had a camera on, and I immediately uploaded it and said, man, this was terrible. This was the most embarrassing moment of my life. I hurt a guy. Fortunately, it wasn't anything serious. It was horrible. And I put it out there and I owned it, right? There are still people today in the comments that are still bringing that up as what a fool I am, or what a liar or a hypocrite I am. Here you are, you still crashing motorcycles, in a really derogatory, negative. It's just astonishing to me. Astonishing how a man that it makes a mistake and owns it and puts it up there. I've tried to always do that. That they would take that and years and years later, using that like, boy, he got me. That's a real gotcha. I got you. Like, oh, you're still crashing, and that's not just that thing. It's many, many, many things. The most prevalent thing is, oh, this is why you got fired from the Forest Service. Oh, I can see why they fired you. Oh, I can see why they don't want you. You're a nut, you're a loon and all of that. That judgmental attitude that's how you know who the really despicable and hateful people are. You have a person like that would take an incident that happened to a man that he confessed, that he owned publicly, didn't try to hide, didn't make excuses. This is me, all me. I did this, and I'll try to do better next time. To use that against a man as some sort of a gotcha is the worst form, the lowest piece of trash that you could possibly imagine. If you have people like that in your life, root them out. Root them out. Goodness. Unthinkable. We have a super chat from Parker Robinson. Shout out to you, Parker. Parker says, my son just turned 16. Any recommendations for the first car? My dad was a boomer, right? And when we were looking at cars, I understand. So there's two schools of thought on this, right? My dad's idea was, he was a car guy. He's like, get Jack a car that's going to be a cool car, like a muscle car or a Jeep, something like that, that's cool. Like what he had back in his day, what I had back in my day, and me now, maybe I've gotten a little bit soft, but I realized that, Jack is going to be driving a lot. He homeschools here, but he drives a couple days a week to his debate camp to go meet with his debate team, which is an hour and a half one way, so it's 3 hours on the road. And he drives a fair amount. He's got different things going on for school and specialties and things he's working on. So he's driving a lot. And not only that, he's driving in the mountains, and he's driving through one of the most dangerous roads in the West, which is the Pacific, or the Columbia River Gorge. It's notoriously dangerous for ice, and it's horrible. And just the thought of that, putting him in a Jeep or something that is without modern safety, without ABS, that sort of thing, without proper airbags, an old design, you know what? It was just unthinkable. So yeah, I know, maybe some people say that's coddling. I don't know. He's my only son. He's my firstborn son, and I'm going to do everything in my power to keep him as safe as I can. I want him to go out. He needs to take risks. He needs to be his own man and all that. But if I can put him in something that's going to be safe, then I'm going to make that choice. Because I don't care about coolness near as much as I care about my son coming home safely to me. So I can't recommend what car to get you. I don't know your region. I don't know, do you need four-wheel drive? I don't know what your budget is. It's hard to say. But I would look at that. I would just look at something that's going to be safe, safe as can be. Something is modern. Modern's better than the old ones. Look for crash ratings. I don't know what to tell you other than that. Maybe it's snowflake mentality. Some will say that, but if it makes a difference, if it keeps my son coming home to me, then I'm going to do whatever I can. That's what I'd recommend. New member JN. Shout out to you, JN. Welcome. Welcome to the family. From the live chat, Nick's Handmade Boots. Hi, Cody. Glad you are still loving your Hot Shots. Yes. Yeah, Nick's make great boots. We are, I'm not dogmatic about it. There's a lot of boots I like. My first high quality handmade boots were made by Wesco. Wesco, I think they're in Scappoose, Oregon, just north of Portland there. They make excellent boots. If you want a nice boot, especially for the working guy. I had Wesco's, they were wonderful boots. Love White's. White's boots are right up there. I've had White's boots, love them. Nick's boots, they're all excellent. The reason why, it's kind of an interesting story. The reason why There are so many iconic handmade boot manufacturers in the Pacific Northwest, like Spokane and Scappoose, and I think White's is up there as well. Danner from Portland, Oregon. Danner's not what they used to be. You know, they've went lower quality, more higher volume. Not that they're terrible, but they're not to be compared with the other three. But do you know how these boot companies started? They all started from single cobblers in logging camps. Like I told you guys, in the logging camps, there'd been, at the big logging camps, there would have been cross-cut saw filers that filed the saws. There would have been a cobbler there that was corking boots, meaning putting the spikes on them. See, corked boots, if you haven't seen them, are boots that have steel spikes covered on the bottom. Now, the old ones they weren't replaceable. They were really sharp steel spikes. And these guys, and the reason for that is that when you're logging in the Pacific Northwest, it's very wet and mossy and it's slippery. You can't even stay on your feet unless you have corked boots. You jump up on top of a log, and if you're dealing with axes and sharp saws and chainsaws, you cannot be slipping around. It's very, very dangerous. You need to have a really secure footing. That's why the big heels so that you can bite when you're going downhill in the mountains. So you have a ledge right there that's not sliding and you'd be on your butt all day long without those. And then they cork them, just covered with spikes. The new ones, they screw in. They're the same concept, but guys, they swear by them. It's funny, if you go into a lot of the local stores here in logging country, they'll have a sign out front that says, "No corked boots inside, please," because they just destroy everything, right? Those corked boots. But so the cobbler, the boot maker, would have had a wall tent in there, and he would have been there making boots for guys, making boots, repairing boots, corking boots, doing all those things. And those iconic boot manufacturers, White's, Westco, Danner, Nick's, I think it was, I don't know if Nick's came out of there, but the other three, I'm pretty sure, came out of that logging industry and were turned into these big companies that we have today. Very interesting. Yeah, and we're going to be, I'm really excited. There's nothing definite here, but I plan on getting involved in doing some stuff with JK Boots. I shared on my public page a video. This is a family-run boot company up in Spokane that I haven't seen yet, but I'm very impressed with their work. The story of the founder is very inspiring. His youngest son contacted me and said, "My dad is making really good boots. This is what we do." And he sent me a couple links, and they'd done kind of a family story on him. And it was Mrs. W and I sat down and watched it, and we're like, this is something I want to get behind. He even suggested, and this is just an idea, this is nothing more than that, maybe doing a boot that I could help design, or a shoe, something that I would want. And I've thought about that a lot. I thought, Michael Jordan got a shoe. Could I not have one? So if they're open to it. So I'm going to get with him next couple days and explore this a little bit of doing a signature boot. Now, what would that be? If I had carte blanche, if I could do anything I wanted, what would I do? Now, what has been done, right? How could I possibly improve upon what's been done by something like this? A White's, Nick's, JK, those boots. This is the Nick's Hot Shot, custom-made boot, best of the best, among the best. How do you improve upon something like this? Well, first off, most pro-ho doesn't need a boot like this. I don't usually need a boot like this. It's too heavy for day-to-day work. A pound on your foot is equivalent to 7 on your back. What does that mean? If you have heavy shoes and you're lifting them all day, it's the equivalent of having 7 pounds in a backpack. So that's 14 pounds on your back all day long, just the boots alone. Super heavy duty, hard use, made fireproof, burn-proof, melt-proof, triple shank leather, we know the whole drill. Heavy leather, all that. It's too much boot. It's even for me, it's just too much sometimes. I like something a little bit lighter weight. I was thinking, what about doing some sort of a slip-on, like a Romeo? Now, I like the look and the function of a heavy boot like this, but it doesn't need to be that thick. And one thing that's a super big bummer for pro-ho is if you're in and out of your house is unlacing. Unlacing an 8-inch boot and relacing it is a chore. You'll find that you'll just stop putting it on those days when you're in and out. So this might be completely insane and crazy, but tell me, Give me sevens in the chat if if you think that this is a viable option. What if we did a boot that looked like this with a nice Vibram sole with traction, but was built more like a Romeo, like a slip-on. So lighter weight, still the look, still the function, and maybe a 4-inch top, maybe probably a 4-inch top, built in a way where you could jump in them. Like, imagine a tactical clog. Imagine a cross between the Dansko, that's slip-on, that's so convenient, in and out, jump in, jump out, but a little bit more structure, a little bit wider, a little less rolly, and have some traction that you could get around on that you could slip into by maybe just reaching down and pulling a tab on the back, but looked like a proper logging boot. Would that be cool? So you could wear it with jeans. You could go out. Now, I'm thinking that this is more, I'm not thinking of a heavy work boot. That's already been done. I have nothing to offer with that. You've already got that. It's already available. I'm just thinking something that we could enjoy, that we would like, that would be unique to us. And I think a slip-on logging boot that would be for the weekends when you want to, maybe you want to run out and cut a little firewood. Maybe it's snow, you need a little bit of traction. Maybe you just want to go out and have something that looks cool, that you can wear with jeans, that looks like a heavy boot, but it's not going to weigh you down. You're not going to have to tie all the time. Would you be interested in that? I don't even know if JK would entertain me. They might even laugh at me if I suggest it, but I can't stop thinking about it. I think I would, if that was available, I'd own a pair. I guarantee it. I'm seeing sevens. Shout out to JK Boots. I'm going to pursue that. They graciously offered it, and these will be, from what, come on, Mama, you can come on down. Come on. Oh, you want me to pet you up there? From what I see, from what they build and their reputation, which I've looked into a little bit, I don't know that there is a finer boot made, and I've never seen, in the passion from that family, it's very, very impressive. So you could be assured that if we do a boot like this, it will be the best of its kind that you can buy. There'll be no finer. The best ingredients. I would love to do that. Spartan, I'm getting to you. I'll be answering your email the next day or two. You're on the top of my list. He says, good to see you, brother. Love the channel. From your closest video, I was wondering what type of Bible that is. I use a Schofield King James Version. Yeah, so I'm not dogmatic about that. The best thing to have, if you are a man of the book, is to have multiples. Now, I grew up with the King James. I love the poetry of it. It's very familiar to me. It gives me the fizz. It's what my granddad read. It's what I'm just comfortable with. But if you didn't grow up with that, and the language can be a barrier, and there's no reason for the good book to be a barrier to you. It's just not necessary, because we have so many good translations. A good complement to that is I like to have multiples. I like to have, if I'm going to be doing some deep study, what I'm going to have on me is I'm going to have a King James Version. I'm going to have a New King James Version. I'm going to have a New American Standard. And I'll even use even some that are not direct translations, but interpretations, and a little bit loose, like the Message, which was written for kind of a different reason, just to make it more approachable for people that don't have a strong background in it. And the reason for that is that there's safety in numbers. The problem is when you're translating from the Greek into English, for example, there just are words that are just not commonly shared. For example, the word love. We have one word for love. I could love my cat, I can love my pocket knife, I can love my 5-year-old daughter. Now, are those all the same types of love? No, of course not. The love for my pocket knife doesn't even compare to the love I have for my wife or my son or my cat, right? Well, I do love my cat. Pocket knife, I don't know where you fall on that hierarchy there. But the Greek, for example, they have 3 different options. There's the love you have for your God, and there's the love you have for your house or your horse, right? They're very different. So when you're faced with these difficulties, how do you make that translation? How do you get that point across? Well, that's where the safety in numbers comes from. When you have multiple copies and you come to a situation where you don't think you're getting the gist of it, or you're not really getting the true intent of the author, you can search these other ones and you can start to put together kind of a mosaic and get a bigger picture. where maybe one of them chose to translate this way and one that way. Now, they're rarely in conflict with one another. It's understandable. Of course, it's not going to be a direct translation because some of the words are not there. But sometimes the way one author or one translator will put it will help. Oh, okay, that makes sense to me. So I like to have a multitude. And Bibles are ubiquitous and they're everywhere. There are some that are dangerous. I would stay away from some. Any religion that has their own specific Bible that has been tailored to fit their particular dogma, stay away from those. Like the Jehovah's Witness Bible or so. They've stripped out everything that has to do with the divinity of Christ. You're not on safe ground with that. That is unique to them. And there are a few others. But your mainstream ones, the NIV, I do not trust the NIV. I have one. I will use it and look at it, but I've found many things, important doctrinal changes that are unsound. It is not a stable Bible to build a foundation on, in my opinion. I like the more conservative translations, but the three I would recommend would be King James, New King James, and New American Standard are pretty good ones. That's what I would do. That's what I do. GLG ForgeWorks, and one-year member. Shout out to you, GLG. Welcome back. He writes, even though I am an East Coast guy, New Hampshire, I press check every time I handle my 19. So you see, GLG, he gets it. He gets it. He has let West Coast man rub off on him, and he's able to crawl up out of the muck and the mud, which is the bucket the East Coast man lives in, and I admire that. Just because you're East Coast man doesn't mean you need to stay down in the mud. You can rise up like the phoenix, and you can have your day in the sun. So shout out to GLG. Look at him. He's wiping the mud off right now. Yes, the press check is something. The press check is an essential skill that you need to have as Proho. So look it up. You'll find some dudes will tell you how to do it. You need to know how to do that. Shout out to you. We have a super chat from Mr. Isaac Leonard. Shout out to you, Isaac. And Isaac writes, mechanical engineer student here in Wisconsin. Thought your input would be interesting. Internship at Miller Electric, Snap-on, or Milwaukee Tool. Oh, goodness. What choices? What choices? So what he's saying is he's got an option for an internship at those three good companies. Oh, okay. Let's talk about this. What would I do? He's a mechanical engineer student. Shout out to you. I would have liked to have done that if only I had the math. I don't have the math. Miller Electric, Snap-on, or Milwaukee Tool. I'm going to rule out Miller first. Not because they're a bad company. They're one of the best companies. I have Miller Welders. That's my brand. But there's going to be less opportunities for interesting things. They do welders. They do plasma cutters. That's what they do. They do it the best. But that might get a little bit boring, especially if you're not into welders. Snap-on or Milwaukee. Those are two very different companies. Now, Snap-on is going to be a lot more, well, in the past, they're getting more innovative now. They're going to be a lot more traditional. But, man, their design and engineering is top-notch. Their engineers are really good. You can't see it. Now, the non-Snap-on buyer or the Snap-on hater who's not worked with the tools and only looks at price is not going to understand what we're talking about here. It's not going to understand the nuance, the little details that make the difference. The analogy that I make is that when you're shade tree and you're out freezing in the gravel and you got to pull the transmission out of your truck and put a new clutch in, and you don't have a proper shop because you're getting started in life, and you've got bolts up on the top of the bell housing, and you've got every extension you own reaching up in there to try to get on there, and you got one chance at it, and if you strip it, the only option is going to be to pull the whole body off. Those little details, the way the socket holds, the flank drive, etc., 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 if it allows you to break that free and you don't strip that bolt off and you're able to take that transmission out without taking the body off, that's where the rubber meets the road right there. That's the difference that you don't see. And that's what's designed in the Snap-on tools, time and time again. I have bought them, thought that I understood everything about it, just to find myself on my head in the situation where that 80-tooth ratchet just gave me just enough click, or that innovative 30 18-degree flex extension that just gave me enough bend to get on there where I could get that socket off there again and again and again. Or that wrench didn't slip off or break and skin my knuckles and put me out of commission, or break my hand or break my finger trying to break a bolt loose, whatever. That happens all the time with those tools. They are exceedingly well engineered. I love Snap-on, but Milwaukee is rewriting the rules for cordless tools. I don't know. Either one, whatever you could get. Either one of those would be awesome. I can't say I have a favorite. Lincoln would be number 3. Milwaukee might be a little bit more younger, might be a little bit more hip and fun, maybe a little bit more willing to take risks, try new things. Snap-on is going to be probably going to really probably keep it pretty traditional, so act accordingly. I don't know. They'd all be good companies. Shout out to you. We need good, we need good engineers for our tools. That's awesome. Man, what a cool opportunity. We have a super chat from Bitcoin Zoomer, another super chat, good to see you back, who writes, what are your thoughts on modern male influencers like JBP, Hasma, and Andrew Tate? Now, I don't know the two. I don't know JBP, and I don't know Hamza. I've never heard of them. I do know Andrew Tate. So when I first saw Andrew Tate, I saw the shirt unbuttoned and the shades and the cars and that lifestyle, right? And I thought, oh, here's just another grifter, another pickup artist that is exploiting young men, exploiting men who are desperate, trying to figure out how they can up their game, how they can attract a mate. There's a bunch of grifters that are taking advantage and preying upon on our young brothers. And I hate that. It's the worst thing. But then, he blew up and he was everywhere. And I kind of discounted it. I'm like, that's not really my thing. He's got his right to do whatever. And then you couldn't get away from it because everything, every feed, every TikTok, every short, he was coming up. I started to hear things like, well, if you can look past all of the bravado and all of the top G and all that stuff, he's laying down some real truths. He's opening men's eyes and young men's eyes to the duplicitous nature of some of these modern Western women. And what I heard, I'm like, well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong about that. My eyes opened up a little bit, or my ears opened, and I'm starting to listen a little bit more. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can look past the macho thing. That's fine. That's his shtick. That's cool. Sometimes we need a bigger than life figure to look up to get our attention, that we can aspire to, and a masculine man. And masculinity is really lacking in this day and age. So I cut him a little slack for that and listened a little bit more. I'm like, yeah, a lot of what he's saying and a lot of he's teaching these guys is sound advice, but I can't really get behind being a player. And just using women or manipulating them anyway. If he gets down that road, I can't get behind that. But I didn't follow it too close. But I thought, well, sometimes you just take the good with the bad. If there's something good that can come out of it, then do it. Well, when he got locked up, him and his brother, and they're still locked up right now, with these accusations, that looked all kind of shaky. But then I was aware of how he made his money. And how he made his money, how I understand it, is through cam girls, basically pimping cam girls, where he would set up whatever, bring a girl in, get her set up with a computer, and I don't have to go into details. We all know what cam girls do, and basically just finessing and milking poor, desperate young men that can't get access to these girls because they can't get a second look. And they have a desire, and their only avenue is either a doll or to pay for a cam girl. And I think this idea that, well, if I say the right things, maybe I'll get a chance. It's really pathetic and sad. I don't blame the young men so much as I do blame the on the other end that are manipulating them and are taking their money. and there's never going to be any hope. You know, these girls, they despise you. You never have a chance with them. They think you as the lowest of any of their audience, no matter what they say, they think you as the lowest scum of the earth. They don't respect you. So if that is the truth, if that is how he makes his living by extracting money out of desperate young men with the false hope of these 304s, then I can't get behind that. You know, I mean, that's any good thing that he had to say or any good advice about masculinity and the importance of that is undone by the shady business and that he does behind the scenes. Now, I'm going off of limited knowledge. I don't. Is that true? I don't know. I'm just saying, if that's true and if that's the case, then how can you overlook that? But as far as the other two, I don't know who they are. Be careful, gentlemen. The biggest threat right now, there is a massive pool of young men that just don't have access to women because of the state of what we talked about yesterday of modern dating. And they're desperate. And I get it. But there's a whole bunch of grifters out there that are preying upon them, promising that you take my course and I'll teach you how to approach women, I'll teach you how to get dates, I'll teach you how to text, I'll teach you, whatever. And it's not going to work. There's nothing that you can't figure out and do on your own. And they're preying upon you. But the most insidious ones, and the new crop that's cropping up, are the female, the fake tradcons. They're popping up like popcorn all over the place. And they're a wolf in sheep's clothing. Because they're coming on and they're saying, we understand that the modern women has been on the wrong path. We understand that your problems here, and we agree with you. And they're coming up and they're grifting, making you believe that they're on your side and they believe you. Well, there's the reason why they're cropping up is because what they've been doing in the past is no longer working. People like me, people like even Andrew Tate, a lot of others out there that have been working behind the scenes for a long time have been making young men aware of the situation. And these women are not having the success that they had in the past. It's not working anymore. So rather than, in my opinion, I don't trust them. I don't think that they're looking internally and realizing, oh, we've been on the wrong path. We need to do a 180 and change. We need to get back to more traditional values. We need to be feminine. We need to be like our grandmothers were. I don't believe that they're doing it out of want or revelation. I think they're doing it out of necessity. I think they're realizing that the gravy train is over, that young men and old men alike are waking up to their scam and that this is their new pitch. This is the new scam. Oh, we'll put this mask on now. Now we'll cover ourselves up. Now we'll stop looking like streetwalkers, and then we'll come in from the back door. We'll come in at this angle. And that's going to fool, and it is fooling a lot of men. Just look at the comments. Oh, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. And you shouldn't either. Just get control of your biology, gentlemen. Get on board with your grind. Decide what it is that you want to do. See it, visualize it in the future, and start working towards it. Don't pay any attention to these grifters. Don't pay any attention to these 304s. Get your biology in check. Stop chasing them. Stop. Don't even look at them. When you go out, when these women, as I said, their currency is attention. Everything they do is to draw attention to themselves. That's why they take their clothes off. They want attention. They don't care. That's worth more to them than anything. When you deny them that is the strongest rebuke that you can do. If you are a young man and you've always ogled and you couldn't stop looking and you couldn't take your eyes off the tight pants or the yoga pants or the revealing top, like 99% of them out there, when you're finally the man that turns your back on that, when you deliberately don't even acknowledge them, you don't look at it, it makes them nuts. And the more of us that can do that, then that's when the change will be brought about. When we revile that and we show disdain upon that, we stop becoming simps and drooling all over it, and we hold to our integrity, we hold to our standards, and we make it clear that we're only interested in virtuous women, that's when the change will be brought about. And it probably will not be brought about in your lifetime. You may have to go monk. You may have to go a life without a mate. That just might be the case. It may be so long before it will turn around. I can't say, but better that than being a loser, being a weak man under the tyranny of a dominant, overbearing woman. Better to be alone on a rooftop. It's just the sad facts. We have a super chat from Naz. Naz writes, Wranglerstar, tried cold shower today. Amazing. That's right. It is amazing. I had my shower this morning. I didn't want to do it. I woke up this morning with a splitting headache. I don't know why. It felt terrible. Bless the sweet loaf. It was 4:45 in the morning. I came out like, my head was just crushing me. Drank some water. Just nauseous. I was going to throw up. Put some coffee on. Baby came down, prayed for me, made a bed for me on the couch. Sweetest thing. Went back to bed. I slept on the couch a little bit, woke up thinking, I don't feel very good. Every justification the justification machine was running in overdrive. Oh, you don't have to do the live stream today. You just call the guys and tell them that you've got the flu and you just take the day off. Just take your ease. That was the conflict, the good and the evil on my shoulder, right? Feeling there, headache on the couch, feeling sorry for myself. Even my wife came up, you should take it easy. You don't need to do the live stream today. I said, the hell I don't. I got up, drugged myself over to the shower, got in that cold shower, flopped around in there like a bird bath, feeling sorry for myself, came out, did my Wim Hof breathing method, came out of that bedroom a man on fire. I would not have been able to be here or to do this had I not had the energizing effect of that cold shower. Amazing. Amazing. So we're not about to be given in to our lower our feels and stuff. We're about, we've made a commitment here. You're going to make a commitment, whatever it is you decide to do to get on your grind. And rain, shine, headache, flu, whatever, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to let the adversary get in between us and this good work. Shout out to you. Cold shower, first day. Thanks. We have so many things in common. Follow the way. Yeah, I like that. Follower of the way. We're going to do that. We're going to be followers of the way, just like the old church did. We're going to get back to the old ways. Former wildland and structure firefighter, grew up Christian cult, eventually quit and started this YouTube channel. Boy, sounds like you and I have walked the same path. Yep. I'm surprised how many people had similar situations. You're not the first person that's contacted me with the very same thing. I've heard hey, looks like we've had the same path. Worked construction, grew up in a Christian cult, et cetera, gave up drinking. We're not alone, man. You're not alone. 2 new members, Stoic and Blues F-150. I can get behind Blues F-150 as a Ford man myself. My granddad was a Ford man to the core. He had 2 jobs after he got out of World War II, and that was he worked as a mechanic at 2 different Ford garages. Our family, way back in the day in Oklahoma, I think had the first Ford dealership in Oklahoma. I think it was his granddad. We have a super chat from Mr. Jason Barr. Shout out to you, Jason. Good to see you here. Says, have you ever seen the Red Wing 1159? My all-time favorite Red Wing boot is the EC Man boot, though. I don't know anything about Red Wing other than my granddad used to wear them. That was his work shoe. He wore like a 4-inch top Red Wing, and there was a Red Wing store down in the Oregon City Mall when I was a boy, and I remember going down there with him, and he would get fitted for his work boots down there. But I've never owned a pair. I don't know anything about it. See, that's an East Coast man's boot. That's not anything West Coast man knows anything about it. We don't wear Red Wing out here. We have our own thing. We have Westco, we had Danner, Whites, Nicks, we have JK now, etc. So I don't know. I wish I could speak to that. But I have heard from East Coast man that it has been a very, very good boot. But I've also heard that they've went down in quality. So I don't know if they still maintain that same quality level that they had in the past. But it sounds like from your experience that they do. I wish I could speak to it, but I can't. I don't even know what those boot models are. Shout out to you, Jason. Good to see you here. We have a super chat from Isaac Leonard. Isaac says, I wear slip-ons. Learned it from Adam Savage. Loved it. Yeah, I learned, I learned something negative from Adam Savage, that he steered me in the wrong direction. That he said that, I think it was Adam Savage said, that toolboxes are where tools go to die. Was that him? And I had not, I had found that to be true, because when I had something I didn't know where it belonged, it went in the toolbox. Too good to throw away, too expensive to give away, but not good enough to have in your main work area, and you didn't want to keep moving it around. So it finds its way in the toolbox. And before you know it, you pull out your tool drawer and it is a nightmare. It's like the Gordian knot in there, right? So he said the same thing. That's where tools go to die. And he's right about that. But that's not true. Toolboxes, especially if you set it up like I have, if you're a line mechanic, you know more than I do about it. But if you're professional homeowner grade, excuse me, that's disgusting. Professional homeowner grade, where you need to be flexible and move things around and have a worktop, a mobile workstation, basically is what we're building, then it's fabulous. To have everything in one spot is fabulous. However, you need to be very deliberate. And with that being said, I still have a toolbox where tools go to die. I have my Snap-on box here, two. I've got the blue one over there, which has more stuff, specialized things. A drawer for leather repair, a drawer for 12-volt electrical, a drawer for battery chargers and battery stuff. That sort of thing, where everything that I own that's going to be able to work with or service or charge a battery is in one drawer. A gunsmithing drawer. I pull it open, I've got everything I need to build an AR, to clean, repair, set up optics, whatever, all in one spot. But I'm not in there all the time. But the black workstation, the roll around, I am in there all the time. So that's my bread and butter. That's where I put everything, and I'm very deliberate about it. But you do need a place for those specialty things that you use once in a while. So both of those those toolboxes are very organized. I know exactly what's in there. But yet, I have the old Kennedy pushed against the wall there on the south side, that it is the place where tools go to die, where you don't know you don't know where they belong. The extra screwdriver that's too good to throw away, or you lost your 10 millimeter snap-on socket, and then you bought another one, and then you found it a week later, and you've got two of them now, and you don't want two in your main box because you don't have a spot for it. That's where those things go. So I call that the overflow. I do try to keep it organized. Pullers in the bottoms, power steering, Pitman arm things, chisels, mirrors, testing stuff. So toolboxes, they don't have to be where tools go to die, but they do. You have to be very deliberate, and you have to keep them maintained. I spoke to, I think it was yesterday, dealing with problem tool or having excess tools, how to do it, and I would follow that. But Adam Savage, I don't know. To each man his own. He has a very different skill set. He does different things than I do. We have a super chat from Alpha Q. Shout out to you, Alpha. And he writes, what states are the best for California refugees to flee to? I want to move my family to Missouri, but I'm currently undecided. Or do we stay and fight? No, there's no point. California is lost, in my opinion. We have a lot of friends that have not a lot. We have a few family friends that have been priced out of land in the Pacific Northwest. Land here is ridiculous. Just to give you an example, down the road, not very far down the road, a 40-acre plot just sold with a modest house on it. I mean, we're not talking a nice house, not at all. I mean, just an old house on it. That just sold for $1.8 or $1.9 million. So you're basically bare land for nearly $2 million for 40 acres. That's not something that very many people can get into. And it's crazy, the prices of property out here. So some of the folks that I know that are getting priced out of this area, that are just tired of not wanting to compete, they've been going over to like Virginia and North Carolina. And I haven't been over there, but they seem to be pretty happy. The prices seem to be reasonably affordable. You can get quite a bit for your money over there. What they can sell their house for here and what they can buy over there is 2 to 3 times nicer, and they seem to be pretty happy with it. So I don't know, take that for what it's worth. If you want to, I just couldn't live over there. I don't like the climate. I'm not. It's too close to East Coast guy for me. I wouldn't feel safe over there. So I would need to stay here. So it's pretty simple. There is cheap land, but the further you get east of the Cascade Range, the cheaper it gets, but the less desirable it gets. If you take Oregon and Washington on the eastern sides, I mean, it's barren. It's dry wheat farming. I mean, there are some hills and some mountain ranges and different things, different topography. It's not all the same, but it's pretty difficult living. It's barren when you drive through there. But land is cheap. So I don't know, man. Not knowing you, not knowing your skill set, not knowing your budget, what you want to do, what your situation is, it's so difficult to advise. But there are still deals around east. I always say east of the Cascade Ranges. And just the more money you have, the closer you can get west, and the least you have, the further you're going to be out. But if you can find somewhere in there, up and down, Oregon and Washington, east of the Cascades, that's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff over there. There's still some deals to be had. We have a super chat from Mr. Jason Barr. Shout out to you, Jason. Thank you for your generosity. Who writes, an interesting thought from my old farmer friend: to honor others is a virtue. To demand honor is a vice. Just an interesting thought. Yeah, to honor others is a virtue. And to demand honor is a vice. Yeah, if you have to demand honor, then you don't have any honor. That's as simple as that. Honor will come. You will know them by their fruit. Honor comes from hard work and from just consistently doing the right thing, consistently following the golden rule, consistently being known as a man that is reliable, that will come through for you. I've had people in my life that have come in and out of my life, and some of the people that I thought I had the most potential, that I just naturally was drawn to, had a connection of some sort, like their personality, like their sense of humor, like their skill set, have oftentimes disappointed me because of the lack of consistency, that projected themselves in one way, but when it really came down to it, when you had a need, they weren't there for you. Didn't show up. You didn't hear from them when you were having a difficulty or a struggle, or abandoned you altogether when the good times stopped rolling. And I have had people that I had in my life that I had discounted, that, well, you know what, we're not really equal. We don't really see things the same way, and maybe they're a little, maybe this didn't check those boxes of what I thought was really a high performance or the ideal fun friend or to have around. But as time goes on, they're always there. They're the ones that are checking up on you. They're the ones that when you cutting firewood or need a hand are the first ones to be there, that are staying in contact, that are always reliable, that you can call and without making you feel like you owe them something, will be the first ones to jump in their truck and come help you, that are there with their nail bags, when you're building the fence, or offering this or offering that. And they, just that consistency and that loyalty and that honesty, those are the ones that become the good friends, the ones that you didn't really think would be. It's funny how life is that way, and we have to, I guess it comes down to why the good book, there's so much emphasis put on us, of people of the way. Be careful who you're judging. Man looks upon the outward appearance. We make judges, we look at them, we try to judge their character, we try to form an opinion, what they're going to be like, what we could expect, whether we can count on them or not. But God looks upon the heart. And that's why he warns us about that so many times, because you just don't know anything about a man until you put him under pressure, and then you'll know. My granddad said, if you want to get to know a man, It's very, very simple. It doesn't take very long. You'll know everything you need to know by doing this one thing, and that is to take him hunting. You're going to go hunting for about a week, and you are going to be put in, if you really hunt like we used to hunt, where we would get out and walk 14, 15, 20 miles a day, go down and hunt in the bottom of Hell's Canyon, pack our elk out, organize drives, shooters, properly hunt. I'm not talking about going and drinking whiskey in the tent and driving around for an hour and a half in the morning and then coming back and taking a nap. I'm talking about harvesting meat with men, like a mission. This is the way we used to hunt. It was the real deal in an austere environment where it might be 20 below. You take a man in that environment where it's 10 below zero in a wall tent, where you have to get up at 3 o'clock a.m. You have to get out in that freezing weather and put tire chains on because it snowed 2 feet that night. You have to man up and go wade out through the snow and drive and freeze, and you have to butcher animals, and you have to cut firewood, and you have to cook, and you have to do all of these and fight all these struggles. And you have to make a decision when you're getting ready to go, and there's 6 or 7 of you, and somebody needs to go down to the bottom of the canyon and help with the drive, knowing that that's going to be a 2, 3, 4 hour hike for them out, and much more difficult than the guy on top. You're going to know your man, because he'll start to shirk. He'll start to demur. He'll start to pick easy jobs. He'll let you get up and start the fire while he stays in his sleeping bag when it's 10 below in the tent, etc., etc. He'll take the best food for himself. He'll serve himself. He'll grab a larger portion of the bacon. He'll shirk his duties. He won't pack. He'll make excuses. That's all you need to know. You'll learn that from a man. And I don't know what the point I was trying to make. That doesn't matter. I remember the point. The point was, we got to be careful not to judge our brothers based on what we see, but we need to find out. And just that's why it's careful. Sit on the fence with someone that's unproven until you have the opportunity to see either through just time and space, or where you're thrust together into a difficult situation, and then you'll find out who is your friend and who you can trust. And that's why we have to be careful of followers of the way, not to be judging. Because God looks upon the heart, and we look upon the outward appearance, and we're not in a position to make a very good decision. I think most of us that are here of some age can attest to that. We have a super chat from Stoic and new member. Welcome. Shout out to you, Stoic. And Stoic writes, starting a family service business from scratch for little money, what would you recommend? Mowing, landscape, window cleaning, etc.? Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say without knowing your situation, but all of those are good. I started a window cleaning business. It wasn't window cleaning, it was awnings. When I was in high school, I went down and bought some brushes and went I was so ignorant. I thought, well, I was downtown Portland, and I was walking along, and I saw down there they have all those cloth awnings, and many of them were just filthy, just for years and years of grime. And I looked at that, and I thought, man, that looks like a business opportunity. I mean, I wonder if I knocked on the door and told them that I have an awning cleaning business, I wonder if I'd get some work. And so I went down to, there was a specialty brush company that sold industrial brushes on the east side of Portland. I bought some brushes and some buckets, and I learned for the first time, I didn't know what solicitation meant. I didn't know what that word meant. And it was terrible. I was just a kid. I was nervous to go do this, and I thought, well, I guess I just got to start knocking on doors, see if I can get some work. And the first door I knocked in, I went in and introduced had business cards, everything. Introduced myself to the woman working at the counter there, and she was quite rude to me and said, didn't you see the sign? It says no solicitation. I didn't know what solicitation meant. Then I noticed that there were many businesses that had the sign out front, and it was a bit of a barrier for me. But I did that sort of thing. Learned the hard way. But It doesn't matter, any one of those, whatever is going to give you the best work, wherever the need is. You got to go to where the need is. Look around. If windows need to be cleaned, then do windows. If landscape needs to be done, do landscape. Do both. There's no reason why you don't have to decide. You don't have to just focus on one. Maybe you do windows in the wintertime when the landscaping business is slow, and you do landscaping in the summertime. That's what I would do. So, and also, what do you like doing? What do you enjoy doing? What gives you the fizz? Kind of stick with that too. It makes the day go by faster. But shout out to you. That's the way you do it. The future is you need to have your own thing. You need to have your own grind. You need to be controlling your own destiny, and you can only do that by being self-employed. The wealthy people, successful people in this world have set everything up in this country to benefit a self-employed person. When you have an LLC, and you can take advantage of all the tax loopholes and all the advantages that the elites and the wealthy have written into the system for themselves, then that's how you succeed. If you are a wage earner, everything is stacked against you, and everyone has their hand in your pocket. And there are a few exceptions, but it's rare. But you're always going to be under the tyranny of people that are exploiting you for your resources. So if you want to get ahead in life, I know it's scary, and it's not cut out for everyone, but you need to be your own man. You need to hang a shingle and get out there and get on a grind, and you need to work harder than everyone else that just goes home and punches out at 4 o'clock. That's the only way to get ahead in this world. It's the only way. It's really the only way to be a free man, as free as we can in this slave planet. Shout out to you, and Godspeed to you in your endeavors. You can do it. Just be consistent and take those cold showers. We have a super chat from Stephen Sco. Shout out to you, Stephen. Thank you for your generosity. And from Zephon Chapel Elliott, and new member. Shout out to you. Welcome. Good to have you here. I'm going to be making some content for you guys coming up. I'm pedaling as fast as I can. I got a little bit behind yesterday. It was kind of the day off for Jack's birthday, so I'm 24 hours behind. And then this morning I was wrecked from my headache, so that put me down a little bit too. I usually start working at about 5 in the morning, and I didn't get to do that today. He says, what are your main thoughts on Russia and possible World War III? Well, I don't think Russia is our enemy. That's what I think. So take that for what it's worth. I think that I think we have more in common with them than we do with some others. But I have to be careful. This is dangerous ground here. That's a heretical thought right now, isn't it? We have a super chat from Zephon. Oh, I just read that. I'm sorry. Okay, we got to wrap it up. We got 3 more. Stephen SKO writes, what are your thoughts on charismatic Christianity? I don't know. Charismatic, what is that? Is that the people, is that like the holy rollers that speak in tongues and make a big spectacle of themselves? Anyone that makes a big spectacle of themselves like that, I'm suspicious of. You know, Christ tells us it's simple. When you pray, go into your closet, shut your door, and come to me in private. There's no reason why you need to be. When I hear the word charismatic, I'm thinking something very gregarious and outrageous. And hey, check us out. Let's draw as much attention to ourselves as possible. Am I on the right string there? I don't really know. If you need to do that, I'm skeptical of that. That time in prayer is a very personal thing. That's between you and your God in your closet or in a quiet place somewhere. And then once you do that, you don't need to be out preaching to folks. Your sermon is taught through your actions, through your character, and through your life. As I'm so fond of saying, the old preacher said, preach a sermon every single day of your life and speak only if it's absolutely necessary. And there it is right there. If you lead by example, if you keep the commandments of God, if you act accordingly as a man with dignity, that you live by the golden rule, that you do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, and if you make honesty the best policy, you will shine like a beacon in the night. You will shine so much brighter than your fellows around you that you won't have to say anything. You will draw attention just by your honesty, your integrity, your neatness, the way you keep your home, the way you conduct yourself, the way you dress, the way you keep your vehicle, the way you take care of the things that God has given to you. That is the sermon that you preach. Then you will have men that will come to you. You'll have men that are lost, that will see the contrast between their wicked nature and their wicked life, their life of sin and sloth and filth and just foolishness. They'll see that. The contrast between the two will be tremendous. Then you'll have a brother that will be willing to listen. If you try to preach to him or shame him or make him feel bad and make yourself look superior or climb up on your high horse, you've lost your brother. You've lost, and you've done more damage to the way, to the work of God, to the gospel, than all the atheists combined. But if you shut your mouth and live according to the precepts of God and follow the urgings of the Holy Spirit, he will come to you, and then he'll be in a position where he's willing to listen. And you don't need to preach to him. You don't need to talk down to him. You just share with him, well, my life is better because this is what God has done for me. And then you will have your brother. It's simple. It's simple. We overcomplicate it. We have a super chat from Anthony Goes to Tennessee. Shout out to you, Anthony. Tennessee, it's pretty close to East Coast man's territory. Be careful. Be on your guard. He writes, from the facts you've been spitting, I know you've been listening to Undead Chronic and or Hammerhand. Well, of course. Yeah, of course. Those guys have truth. Now, they don't share. I don't know what, I wouldn't say that they're men of faith. And I'm not a 20-something-year-old man whose object is nothing more than to get a high body count or or just sleep with women. However, there's truth in a lot of areas. Just because you don't agree with everything someone says doesn't mean there's not something of value right there. Because what they're spitting is truth. And Hammerhand specifically seems to me to be a good man. He has a very, like him and I have something in common in that we have a passion for the plight of men, young men specifically. We understand how difficult your situation is. Probably one of the most difficult times in history for a young man that desires to try to find a good woman to raise a family with. I don't know that it's ever been more difficult as now. I don't know, I haven't been alive for all generations, but it's very, very rough. My heart is sympathetic towards that. And that's why we're here. That's why we put our channels at risk to get this truth across, of course. So I don't discount any man that's doing good work because I don't believe with his theology. I don't like what he's doing or how he treats women. That's his business. I'm not going to advocate it. I'm not going to do the same thing or participate in it, but I'm not going to discount the good work that they're doing. Of course not. No. Shout out to you. Yeah, I like Hammerhand. I've actually shared Hammerhand. I shared one of his videos to the middlemen just a couple days ago. Mr. Jason Barr, welcome. Shout out to you. Who writes, were you describing Pentecostal and East Coast charismatic is just non-denominational? I don't know. I'm speaking out. I don't even know what I'm talking about when it comes to charismatics. I don't know. I don't give a damn about these organized religions, to be honest with you. They have ran their course. They have had their time in the sun, and they have, in my opinion, been weighed and found wanting. What have they done? What are they doing? What have they conserved? What have they saved? I don't know. There are exceptions, but I'm tired of being powerless. I think there is great power in the Word of God, and I have seen it. It's been demonstrated. It has been proven to us through iniquity. We have all the examples from the 66 books that a man that goes forward in faith is a powerful man. But too many of these churches are teaching the doctrines of men going forward, not putting Christ at as the central figure of their faith. And it's a waste of time. Let the dead bury their dead. There's a new movement that's being raised up. There's a new generation of Christian soldiers that God is raising up. And this is a spiritual battle. I'm not condoning violence. We're not about violence. We are here to save and to help teach to save sinners by making them aware of the way, of the true teachings of Christ. That's why we're here. Not me. I'm pointing you. I'll get your attention. I'm drawing your attention here. Come look here so I can point you to him. That's where we're at. We're all in the same boat. There's not one greater than the other. The body of Christ is made up with many members, not just one. One can shine and look to be more important, but it's not more important. That's why Paul gave us the analogy of the body. He said the body of Christ is like the human body. The head does not say to the foot, I don't have any need of you. No, without the feet, what's the head going to do? It can't even be mobile, can't go anywhere. So every piece is crucial, even though it may be the smallest part. Take the heart. The heart's not the biggest part of the body, but what good is the rest of it without the heart? So the body of Christ, the members, are not to be, there shouldn't be competition. There's no love in competition. It's an understanding that we all bring something to the table. I don't care if you're sitting here 80, all crippled up and broken, thinking, what can I do for the gospel? Well, you can do a lot for the gospel. You're in the body. You're offering wisdom. You're bringing experience. You're offering steadfastness that the 18-year-old doesn't have. Yes, the 18-year-old, the 20, the 30-year-old can get up, can do a lot of things, can knock on doors, can do tremendous things, but he's unstable. He needs the ground. The body needs to be together. Now, we can't all be together. We're all spread out all over the world. There's 500 of us here, all over, all international. We can't be together like we would like to be, but we're still in the body of Christ. God told us, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together in your name, then I am there also. In the midst of you, God is here with us. God is ready to work in your life. Be consistent. Be here at noon. Let's encourage one another. Let's move forward, and let's be open to new ideas. Let's not discount anything. Let's not wait for anyone to start the work. We're starting the work right here. We're moving forward. I've been called to stand in the gap. There's an army coming that are antagonistic to God and to the way. He's asking, who will stand in the gap? Who will lock shields with me? Who will pick up the sword, which is the word, the truth, and fight and defend the things that we know to be right, defend our families? Will you do it? Because I'm out here doing it. I'm taking arrows. Will you take arrows as well? And I think you will. That's why you're here. It's exciting, gentlemen. We have nothing to be afraid of. Again, we're not about violence here. We'll protect if someone tries to hurt us in our homes, we'll do what we have to do to prevent that. But we're not about being violent. This is a spiritual war. Render unto the things that are Caesar's, Caesar's, and the things unto God that are God's. Our last one, our super chat, is from Chase Cormick, and new member. Welcome. Shout out to you, Chase. And he says, I have a suggestion for the community of members that might help a lot. Mind I email you? Yes, you're welcome to. I'm a little slow to get to those. I worked through about 30 of them this morning. A lot of them take a long time to read. I have to cogitate and think on it, so it bump it up. If I miss you, if you haven't heard from me in a week, bump it up. And I'm actively working on it. I'm doing the best I can. So thank you, beloved. Thank you very much for joining us. You pay for this. You pay for this with your time by being here, 2 hours. And it's not lost on me. That's the most valuable thing that we have is time, and I appreciate that. I really do. May God bless you and your families. Keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you guys on the next live stream and members chat.